Welcome back to the podcast. And today we have Heather. I didn't get Heather's last name.
Is it Tesch? How do you pronounce your last name, Heather?
It is Tesch.
See?
T-E-S-C-H.
See, I'm smart.
Yes. Now, when my brother told me Heather was coming on the podcast and she was from the Weather Channel, I couldn't help but to reflect on the days. I mean, no one really knows this about us. We used to listen to the Weather Channel solely for the music.
Solely.
And the moment they played Kenny G and Chris Bodie in the background, people would I think, miss the opportunity to sit there when no one was really forecasting and you were just sitting there watching the 7-day outlook.
Yeah.
And you were listening to this music, and I was like, man, this is like captivating.
But to be a music nerd, for us, it was captivating.
Yeah.
For Heather, she's probably like, this is the most boringest music that they could ever put out.
It was boring, and I heard it over and over and over again, day after day,
Right.
year after year.
So you actually heard the music? That wasn't anything that was like edited in?
No, it was live, so it would play just like you would hear it, I would hear it.
Really?
So yeah, I heard a lot of that.
Okay, Heather, tell us this.
Wait,
Okay.
hold on. Heather and I was on Heather's podcast.
Yes, it was wonderful.
It was, and I told my NDE story on her podcast, which we'll give you the link and the description down on that, and she will also tell you how to get to it. But we kicked
And
it
let
off.
me say that people loved it.
Oh, well.
Yours was, I think, the fastest growing episode we've had, and you've already had. I didn't even check today, but it's over 25,000, and it's only been up what, a week? Not even. A
Yeah,
week.
if that. Yeah.
And she's such a great interviewer. Just comfortable space, and I mean, those views. Well, Heather, you're welcome. But Heather is she's a very interesting lady, and I know by our small conversations, I just like we have to know this woman on why she joined the Weather Channel and why is she like into NDEs and all this stuff. But I just had to say that where she came from. But she has an identical twin, and her husband is one of the twins, and I like that because that's a synchronicity in itself. And he's a pilot, and I've always wanted to be a pilot.
Yeah,
and we always loved the Weather Channel. I'm adding things up here, Heather. I don't know if you're good at math, but damn it, this is a pretty good high score.
Awesome.
Yeah, so give us a little bit about yourself. Where's the Heather train going? Like, where'd you come from? How'd you do it? And where are you going now?
Okay, so I grew up in a small town in Buffalo, Minnesota, like 5,000 people, real small. I have 4 sisters. I'm the youngest of 4 or 5, so 5 total. And I always say you learn to kind of be a smart ass when you have 4 older siblings, because you have to kind of learn to be really quick to just survive around that. But I decided initially to go into journalism, and that's what my first degree was in. And I did that for a few years. My first job was at a TV station in Pensacola, Florida, WEAR, and I got $5 an hour. Now, I could have gone to the mall and gotten $5 an hour because that was minimum wage. So, people think TV's glamorous, but you really have to work hard and pay your dues in the field of television to have a successful career. So I did that. And then my husband was in the military at the time. So we moved from there into Corpus Christi. So then I got a job at a TV station there, KIII. And I loved that too. And great people there. And so we were there for a bit. Then we moved back to Jacksonville, Florida. And I got a job at a TV station, a really small station in Brunswick, Georgia. And I don't think that they're still doing news. I really, honestly, I don't know. It was a startup. And they actually hired me to do their anchoring, and I must have been really bad because they canceled the show. Like it literally was starting, and then they canceled it like after the first one. So, um, but then my husband was transferred again or moved. The first ones were training, so those were really short little stints. Then we went to Maine, and we were in Maine for 4 years. And so I was working for a little bit in Bangor, Maine. And then I started doing, and also I was doing some freelance in Portland, Maine. And that's when I decided to go back to school for meteorology. So then I drove to Plymouth, New Hampshire, and I went to school there at Plymouth State. And I would live in a boarding house during the week, come back on the weekends. And I used to study all the time because, the math, the science, the physics, none of that came naturally or easy to me. And so I was always studying. And do you guys remember the show Cheers?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So there was a character that you never saw, Vera, that was Norm's wife.
Uh-huh.
And so Frank, my husband, his friends would always call me Vera because I was never there. I was always studying when there was stuff going on. So that was really excited when I graduated. Then I worked at a couple of stations. I started at the Fox station in Portland, and then I went to the CBS station. And then my husband, his career moved him again, this time to Pennsylvania. So in order to, they always say you should have a job to get a job. So I kept commuting for 6 months. I would drive up every weekend to Maine, and then I would work the weekend and then drive back during the week or on, then Sunday night after the show. And so it was, I did that for about 6 months. Then I got a job in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which was a great place, WGAL. And while I was there, my husband finished his career in the Navy. So we decided to move back home. So I got a job at WCCO TV in Minneapolis. That was home. We thought we'd be there forever. Our families were both there. We have a lot of friends there. And then the Weather Channel called me and said, "Hey, do you want to come work for us?" And I thought, well, I'll just go down for the interview, but I'm not interested. And then I came down to Atlanta, and everything so green and sunny, and the people at the Weather Channel were so nice. It was owned at the time by Landmark Communications, really great family-owned company. It was a media company. And so I loved it, spent many, many, many years there. And eventually, most recently, I've been working for the Weather Channel Digital. And so I've been on that side of it for about 5 years. And I have to mention, too, when I was at the Weather Channel, the TV side, I hosted their morning show for probably 10 years. And it was with the greatest partner. His name was Marshall Cease. We are still good friends today. And what I loved about Marshall is that his philosophy was, if I make my partner look good, then I look good.
Right.
And I just love working with people that are like that are kind, that want other people to shine. And as you know, probably not everybody's like that. And I worked with some people that were not like that. But that's how he was. And so I always really, I loved working with him. And he's still a great guy.
What? Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, okay. I got a quick question. Okay. When you were growing up,
yes,
you said 4 sisters.
Mm-hmm.
Were you just watching TV and just you know what, that looks like an interesting job, I'm gonna go pursue it?
No, I had no clue. Well, I actually, when I was a kid, I wanted to be either a cartoonist, or let's see what else. Oh, a veterinarian. Those were kind of the two things that I thought about. And then kind of realistically, you're like art or cartooning. Yeah, I thought that's probably not the best career to go into. And I just think I randomly picked journalism. I just didn't really know what else to pick. And I was not intending to go into television. And I remember that there was a gal that lived in the dorm, the same hallway that I was on. And she's like, "Oh, I'm going to be in TV and as a journalist." And I'm like, wow, that's so much confidence. How can you say that?
Right.
And then I got an internship at a local radio station. My husband actually knew somebody there. He was my boyfriend at the time. So he got me just an internship there doing radio, and I loved it. And I thought, okay, I'm going to try to go into TV. And I think that, we often have very limiting beliefs on what we can do. And I remember that when I first met, had my first family dinner with my future husband's family, I was, going to school, and his dad says, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, well, I want to be a journalist on TV. And he said, oh, you're going to write for people on TV. And I said, no. I said, I want to be on TV. I want to be a journalist on TV. And he said, oh, you're going to write for people on TV.
Oh, wow.
And it was just that, so often we think, well, that's what some other people do.
Right.
And I'm sure people watch podcasts too. Well, that's what other people do. But, we can all do this. So anyway, I always thought was kind of an interesting story.
Right. And I was going to ask you to build on that. Did your sisters ever tell you, oh, you're not going to be able to do that? Or were they knocking you for it?
Mm-mm. No, and nobody really ever did. And when my father-in-law said that, he was just being very genuine. He wasn't saying it as, a knock. It just wasn't in his mind that somebody from a small town could do that.
Right.
And I will say that's been the hardest thing that I had to get over too, is because even though I had successes in getting jobs, it's, there was always that insecurity of like, oh, am I good enough? Can I do this? And, I've had friends along the way just give me advice, and they're like, you know what? You just got to go in there and act like you know what you're talking about and just do it. You know more than other people, and that's what you just got to present. And, that's always good advice.
Yeah. So when you take us back to the Weather Channel, your first day, and you don't have weather experience, like background, you were like you said, you were just, oh, no.
Well,
different?
no, I did by then, because so when I went back to school for meteorology, and I probably wasn't clear on this, I went back to school for meteorology when we lived in Portland. And then I did work as a meteorologist.
Oh, okay.
In Portland for the two stations. Then I worked in Lancaster, Pennsylvania as a meteorologist. Then I worked in Minneapolis as a meteorologist, expecting to stay there forever. I had a great partner. Dave Huddleston was his name, if any of you recognize his name, from Minneapolis or Philadelphia or Atlanta. He's worked. And then at that point is when they saw me and said, come down. And I loved it because the people were so nice. There are different owners now, but, just when I came with Landmark, it really was very much kind of family run. It was a great place. Yeah.
What do you have a fond memory of, like your first hiccup on camera?
Oh my gosh. So I worked with Marshall Seas and Dennis Smith, and we would laugh and laugh during the commercial breaks all the time. And that was probably, a little bit longer ago, where you could still probably get away with like politically incorrect comments.
Right.
And so one of the funniest ones is that Marshall had a script, and he was just reading the script, because, we would ad lib when we were at the wall doing the maps. But if there was a story, that we might be reading the prompter. So he was talking about the day the weather was going to change, be cold and then warm and then cold. But the producer had written the script in the way that he said, jacket on, jacket off, all day long. And so we all got a pretty
Jacket
good
on,
kick out of
jacket off. Well, we won't go
So
too far into that.
for years we laughed about that.
Yeah.
We would repeat that story.
I'm glad I wasn't the guy in charge of the script.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a gal, and she was you write it and you don't really think about it. It makes sense as you're writing it.
Yeah.
But then when it comes out a little bit different, and there were blunders like that, and or little bloopers all the time. And
you ever not control yourself and the camera comes back on and you guys are still in it laughing?
I think we were pretty good about calming. I'm sure there were times when we were a little giddy.
Yeah.
But I think that, we learned to do that pretty well, I think. Yeah.
What was that one chap's name? Was Al Roker a part of the Weather Channel at any point?
He was, and a lot of that, yes, he was. And he, for a while, and that's what, after Marshall and I did the morning show, for at least 10 years, and I'd been there for about 12, because the first year or two, we weren't doing the morning show yet. And then a new conglomerate bought the Weather Channel, and they let go of a lot of on-air people. And so it was a hard time. And then they took us off the morning show, and then they brought a couple more people in. And so Marshall then retired. I stuck around on the TV side a little longer. And so that's, you know, so that's about when he came on board. So, and I'm not sure how long that lasted. I don't even know how many years. I don't really remember.
Yeah, he went straight off to some other mainstream type deal, I believe.
Yeah.
So
Well,
you've been off the Weather Channel for a while, like, so you don't do like the cast that is like they do the Weather Underground now, and then you have like these other shows. Do you know?
Well, I was, so the last 5 years I've been at the Weather Channel Digital.
Okay.
And here's the secret that people don't know. Like, they divorced. So the Weather Channel TV and the Weather Channel Digital, they partner, you know, they're both called the Weather Channel. But they actually ended up splitting into two different companies. And so the last 5 years was at the Weather Channel Digital.
Oh, okay.
And I think my last day was May 7th, and I started my podcast May 9th of 2023. So so it was really exciting to start this podcast. And it's one of those things where, sorry, I'm going to mute for a second. It's one of those things, what was, at my age, I lose my train of thought a lot, but what was I going to say?
It was your transition from...
Yeah, transition. I can't quite remember what I was going to say.
Oh, that finicky age process.
Oh, gosh. It's awful. Yeah.
Why? Okay, tell me this. Why transition into a near-death experience profile?
Oh, because I've been fascinated by this forever. I probably read my first book when I was in my early 20s, and maybe even younger than that, maybe even in my teens. I think I was, because my first college paper was on near-death experiences, and there were so few stories out there then. But I remember a friend of a friend was telling me about how their mother had died, and how, the mom had reached up in her dying moments as if she was seeing something. And I remember incorporating that in part of the college paper that I wrote. So I've always been interested in this. And even, when I was younger, always interested in spirituality. And then also the mind. I always kind of was fascinated with, what the mind can do, and what our thoughts can do if we think positive versus negative thoughts. So that was at a very young age that I had that connection. And, back when I was graduating from college, it's not like you could go get a job doing a podcast, or saying, hey, I'm going to, have a job where I talk about near-death experiences. One, it wasn't accepted, and there was nothing out there like that existed.
Right.
And so it wasn't even a thought. It was a hobby. It was something I was always intrigued by and interested. And back then, like, a book would come out every couple of years, and I would just read it. I'd love it. And it wasn't like today. Today, it's great, because if people are interested, you can go to YouTube, and there's my podcast, and there are other podcasts that are out there that cover the topic. So you can always listen to stories on it, which is wonderful. I mean, I listen to not only my guests, but then I'll listen to other ones as well on other shows.
So what was your religious beliefs then? Like, what was your, I guess, predominant denomination? Did you have one?
Yes, I grew up Lutheran. In fact, I grew up Missouri Synod Lutheran, which is a very conservative branch of Christianity, or of Lutheranism, I should say. So that's what I grew up with. And I definitely expanded. I'm much more open to a lot of things today than I was. And I think my faith is constantly evolving. You hear these near-death experiences, and you just realize there's just so much we do not know, we cannot know. And I think, you get a lot less rigid in your beliefs. And I think, people can still hang on to the beliefs that they have when they grew up. But I think these near-death experiences also show that, sometimes you have to let go of things that don't quite match with reality anymore.
Right. And I was going to ask you that. Do you think your beliefs have left the confines or have expanded outside of your faith? You find yourself thinking like, well, these beliefs that I once held are now slightly challenged?
I would say they're expanding is how I like to look at it. And I think that's my comfort zone, that I hang on to what I like, but I've expanded it to incorporate so much more, to realize, like I said, there's just so much we don't know. And, anything people have written is only written what a human can understand to write and what people can understand reading. And there's so many concepts beyond what we can imagine. And I think a lot of times we want to put human traits on God. And I think the more that I listen to these stories, it's just like, we can't understand who God is, what infinity is, what all of this is. And there are fortunate people like you, Lamar, you got a taste of what is out there, but so many of the rest of us don't. And that's why we're very blessed to hear people like you and these stories, because it just gives us a little window into what is to come next.
Yeah, and sometimes I feel bad about that because there's a lot of people that follow the subject like you do, like we do, and they would tell themselves, oh, I wish that I could have that experience just so I can know, for sure. And I really do wish I could just, give a part of myself and just like, give that to somebody so they can just have that feeling. And I often tell myself sometimes like, why me? Did I really need to experience that? Was it, I wasn't in some sort of like self battle between religion and not believing. So the gifts come to people that just, I guess, just that, to normal, regular people. And it's okay to have it, Do you ever, go ahead.
I was going to say, sometimes, I mean, everybody says, well, you don't want to die. And certainly I don't want to die. But, I'd love to have an experience to make sure I'm on the right track,
Right.
I mean, that is always my prayer, that, that what I put out there is helping people and not ever leading people down the wrong path somehow. These stories are just so beautiful. They're all about love. So, I just always want to be putting out good things.
I think with your positive mindset, I can already feel your energy from this side of the camera.
Right.
There's a saying I tell myself, because I'm of positive nature too. So if I don't get any news from source, any news is good news.
Right.
Right. Meaning my direction is right for me, and there's the worst judge on the planet is going to be yourself. And if you keep yourself in checks and balances, then chances are you're on the right path.
Right.
And sometimes I kind of struggle with good, bad, and evil. And I kind of just leave that be and feel information from source and be balanced, because we need all of those things in our life to live a full life. And then you said something earlier about we only understand what we understand from the human intellect. I think what needs to happen in society, especially all over the world, is I think it's a must that most individuals have to spend, and I'm going to say this because this still is America, freedom of speech. We have to spend at least 1 to 3 years into etymology. And
I don't even know what that is.
So etymology it's a source, it's just education on words and wordplay alone. And if we can understand etymology,
clearly, I have not studied it.
well, and so I've only read a few things just on that alone, and you'll find so there was a guy. His name was Zachariah Stitchin. And I don't know if you heard of Zachariah Stitchin, but he literally interpreted the Sumerian dialect and their written language. And for somebody to study that language for so long and decipher what they were truly saying and to have these profound messages, it's just proof in the pudding that our education system isn't gearing us to better ourselves, to understanding mental health, to understanding people like my brother who are having an experience that science would say you're batshit crazy. And then we have these conflictions of what's crazy and what's not, and how do we open our minds to go beyond the bullshit? You know what I mean? Like, how do we do that? Well, I think this is the only way we can do that is when people get ego out of their way and you meet people for the first time and you have these discussions to let people know, hey, it's okay to think like this.
Right.
You know, like this is where we could be headed as a society. But I think a lot of people, like you said, they're trained to think, I have to be a doctor and not look past that. I have to be a police officer or a lawyer or, you know, but they don't want to think past that. Like, what happens after that? Is that all your life? You know, are you ever going to open the box and just get out of that and explore? You know, so.
And that leads me to, and I'm sure we all have friends and we have like true friends, right? And I don't want to put anybody on the spot for you, but when you are your true self and you like to tell people and express about, you know, hey, these near-death experiences hold a lot of weight and they mean a lot to me. Do you have friends that accept it, like readily accept it and believe in it? Or are your friends more so like, we just support your thought process and we support what you're doing, but, you know, that's really not our cup of tea?
I would say I've got a lot of supporters, which is great. I don't think there are a ton of people that to my level are intrigued by these because, you know, obviously I love listening to these. But I do have a friend here in the neighborhood, Lauren, she's the one that I probably get the deepest in terms of conversations. And, you know, she's got different religious beliefs than I do, but we have great, like, in-depth conversations. My two sisters, Mary and Terry, they watch every single one of my episodes. They give it a like, you know, they'll often comment. So they've been huge supporters. And, you know, some are probably out there for them. Some they probably really relate to, and some are like, oh, it's a little out there, but, you know, they always are supporting me. And some of my high school friends, they were the ones, you know, that were helping me brainstorm like some names for this podcast. And then I've got some close girlfriends here that actually a couple of them still work at the Weather Channel. One of my girlfriends now is in Cleveland, and they're kind of my rat pack here in Atlanta, Christy and Jackie and Samantha. And they all, you know, have a faith, and they do enjoy talking about it sometimes. But again, I think everybody's at a different kind of level and a different comfort zone. And, you know, and my husband's been great too. It's not as much his thing, but he tries, and he's learned a lot from them, and he enjoys listening to them as well. If I wasn't interested in it, would he listen to them? You know, maybe not.
Right.
But he does support me as well. So I have been blessed with a lot of supporters.
Have you ever tried, or have you ever been in a situation where you had to defend yourself and your beliefs of these supernatural event, or if you want to call them supernatural events?
Not really, because I don't really answer the challenges. I mean, I get challenged all the time in the comments. And I just say, thanks for your comment. You know, that's their opinion. And they are certainly welcome to their opinion. And I always want my comment section to be, people to be able to express themselves. Some people get a little mean, and I'm not a fan of that. But you know, I don't try to change somebody, because people that are listening and they want to listen, you know, they're going to get what they want out of it. And other people, they've already put up a wall and they're not interested in it, and that's fine. You know, I always say, if it's not your thing, don't watch. You know, I want people that are interested in near-death experiences to watch my podcast. And I hope, that people that are interested find it.
Right.
But it's not everybody's cup of tea, I
Right.
mean, my husband might like watching golf on TV sometimes, or golfing. It's not my thing.
Yeah.
Every now and then I might go sit down if he's watching something, but
Yeah.
we all.
And I think we had a conversation about that. And I was telling you, people are where they are, and it's not our place to try to change them. But the ones
Right.
that are very cynical and leave the nasty comments, and I'll tell you over and over, they're still searching and watching your podcast because a part of them feels like they need to find out. They if you're so against it, then why seek it out? Is my whole thing, and take the time and energy to leave a negative comment.
Right.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't know if they watch it. I mean, I think sometimes they just see the headline,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm sure some of them watch it because I can tell by their comment. But other people, I'm not sure if they're just commenting or if they actually saw it. But,
Why do you think humans are so fast not to believe certain things, but they'll believe in their religion, and that's like not 100% fact?
That's
it's
blind faith.
It's written by man.
Right.
Like, Why? What do you think that is about us?
well, because most of us have been trained. We've grown up with our religion. That's just become so much a part of us, and it's our comfort zone. And if and it depends on what religion or what branch of Christianity you grew up in, because there are a lot of people that are Christians that are very open to all of these experiences, and and I hang on to my background, but I'm open to all of these experiences. But there are also different Christians that will not open the door to this because it's just out of their comfort zone, and like I said, it's just not their thing. I just think they were taught that everything has to be a certain way. I find the problem with that is that when I am taught things fit in this box, and then you start to discover, oh, well, what about this? Like, this is outside the box, but that makes sense to me. And or there's there's something that in your box that you're like, I just can't believe that. That's just not right for me. And then I think people turn it all away and they're like, oh, I'm an atheist, because it's too narrow for them. And I always joke with my husband, and I said, you have it easier. You grew up Methodist. I grew up Missouri Synod Lutheran. And I said, you had room for all this other stuff, and it was okay to come in. And I said, mine was, a much narrower path of what to believe. And so I think then when you do see things that don't seem right, it's easier to set everything aside, which is too bad. I think that some of the comments that people make actually turn more people off to what they're trying to promote, and that's just sad. I think what you want to do is, if you want people to believe what you believe, then open up, be kind, I welcome people that are genuinely concerned that, she's sharing something that I don't agree with, and I think it's from the devil or whatever.
Right.
Some of them are genuinely concerned, and I welcome that. I get that. They are doing it from a place of love, and their comments are loving. But there are also people that are doing it like, I'm right and you're wrong. And so anyway, that's probably way more than people wanted to know.
You know what? Because there's such a cosmic shift. And here's how I know the three of us took the blue pill. It's because now...
Wait, isn't that Viagra?
Well, I don't want to give personal information out there, Heather, but...
I'm 46 years old. I don't need that yet.
Yeah.
I mean, but if you have some, you can send it my way.
Anyway, the blue pill.
I think we took the blue pill, and now we can't close the fucking door. Now the three of us are like, what else do we not know, and how much have we not been privy to?
Well, but that brings it to the point of, see, I don't like the segregation in different religions. That's just me personally, because it's all from the same source. So I don't like it. To me, I think of it in my cop mind, I think of it as gang affiliation. You all have these different gang affiliations. You fight over it. You represent this or this or that, but it's all the same damn thing. It's, source to me, they're like olive branches, and it's just what resonates with you. You just pick and choose what you want.
But it only hits certain people.
Right.
Could you imagine the entire world on this conversation and wanting to know more and come out of a box? Like, why is it just a few of us? And once we get in it, that's it. We're enthralled in it. We want to know more.
Right.
But, you have to remember too, that a lot of people, we are taught from the time we're little throughout our life that if you believe the wrong thing, then you're going to hell. And so that is that's a big fear for a lot of people.
Right.
And
well, it's a fear tactic.
Well, it's a brainwash tactic. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm saying if you don't give someone a chance, like if I had this, I'll say it for me personally, my children, I don't introduce spirituality, universe, source, religion, anything until they are of a mind where they can comprehend what I'm telling them or what they can learn from society. I tell them, you don't need to worry about that right now. Just focus on being a loving, good person, and that's going to get you through life just fine. You don't need any of it. But when you're of age, feel free to read and pick and choose
what organization.
What you want to be affiliated with and what represents you and what speaks to you. And then practice that and know it 100% in and out. Read it. If you're going to do it and live by it 100%. Don't extrapolate and pick and choose out of the religion what resonates with. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that's the problem with a lot of religions is no one can live 100% truly their religion because it doesn't bode well for life in general.
And it takes away a human experience.
Right. And then because no one's perfect. And if your God or universe made us, then God in the universe is not itself perfect. It would not put out anything that needs to be dictated by of a greater sense of it, So I think that
but
could
at the
be a
same
big problem.
time, sometimes it's good to have a foundation, so there's so many ways to look at it.
Right.
So
I don't know. That's just something I was like, I truly thought about to giving somebody.
Yeah, it's confusing, and that will be the first question I ask. I'm like, hey, what is this all about?
Right.
What's right, what's wrong? How does everything play into this? I mean, I will have a lot of questions when I someday have my experience.
Right, and you hold on real quick. You told me before the podcast started that you had a hard time with something about yourself that you were trying to change and that you were trying to get accustomed to. I forgot what it was. Do you remember where we were going with that?
Yeah, something totally different. So I don't know if you want to go in that direction.
Oh, let's go. This podcast is based on detours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, detour. So what I was saying is, I've worked in the television industry for so long and then digital, and you have, your bosses and you have the audience and, people can be critical and you've got to do everything right. And I was saying, now that I'm on my own, I have a lot more freedom to say and do what I want. Not that I didn't love what I did. I loved it, but you have a lot more freedom on what you say here with you guys and on my podcast. And so for me, I think the struggle is trying to feel comfortable sharing things because it was something I didn't do for so many years. And, there's always that, I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want to offend somebody with different beliefs.
Right.
That sort of thing.
I have a saying, I don't drop my energy. I just lower my connection speed. So if you're not up here with me, I don't drop my vibrant energy. I'll just lower my connection speed and I'll get down there with you wherever you are in that time. And then I'll slowly bring you up. And that's what it is.
Yeah.
Who's
This is
that?
Bubby, by the way.
Buddy.
Bubby has decided to join us.
Bubby. Didn't you have a black cat as well?
That's my daughter's cat. I actually have I have a lot of cats. I have 4 right now and she has 1. Bubby was actually my daughter found a feral pregnant cat. And so, you know, I said, well, we got to trap her because otherwise all the kittens are going to die. So her and her fiance trapped the cat. We brought it to our house, put it in our laundry room, and this feral cat had 7 kittens. Bubby's one of them. He's a reject. I was able to get rid of the other 6. And whoops, sorry, Bubby. And people did not want Bubby, and they did not want the mom. So I ended up keeping both the mom and Bubby, and they're both very sweet cats.
Oh, well, see,
There you go. Yeah.
But don't, I got to talk to the husband, but don't be the cat lady. Heather. Don't.
I am. Oh, I'm way past that. And,
Wow.
I had 5, and then one of them died about 3 weeks ago. and
Oh,
was
that
sad.
sucks. Well, how does the husband feel about the cats? Let me ask you that.
He would much prefer 2 or 1.
Yeah.
I mean,
I bet he
I
would.
bet he would. Yeah.
Yeah, he does like cats, but I'm definitely the cat person in the family. And I always say, if every cat had a home, I would have 1 or 2.
Right.
But it's, I feel like, you know, they needed a home, and so I gave it to them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's-
But you're that type of woman. You know what I mean? And I guess I'm that way with horses. I guess we're that way with horses.
Yeah.
Because you know we had a long career with horses. We were journeyman blacksmith farriers. I don't know if you know if that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so we
Interesting.
had a lucrative career correcting horses' feet. You know, making metal out of the forge and slapping them on there. We did Budweiser
wow.
horses. We did drafts, reining, cutting.
Frisians,
Roping.
dressage.
We could go into it,
Yeah.
but we loved it. We did it for almost 20 years, and our hands and backs have taken the toll. But the work was fun.
Yeah.
And the horse is like our animal.
Yeah.
So I can relate to the animal thing.
And my wife adopted some horses, and if she didn't put that in check, we would be horse broke
Yeah.
forever.
Oh yeah, they're expensive.
They're expensive.
Oh yeah.
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 Well, and my back is relatively expensive too because you only get one of them, Heather.
Is it bad and hard on your back?
It's more hard on everything because you're
Just the-
using everything.
Yeah.
But if go ahead.
I would say I do love horseback riding. I don't own a horse, but I have a good friend, Tracy, who lives in Arizona. She's one of my high school friends, and she has a horse, and so we always ride. You know, if I go
Yeah.
visit her.
Yeah, live vicariously through Tracy.
One-
Don't own one.
One thing is to ride them. The other thing is to work underneath them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
That would be less fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to me, it was a blast. I loved it. I loved figuring out issues. I love reading X-rays
Yeah.
and letting the X-ray tell me how to shoot a horse, how to trim the horse. I miss
What do you
talking.
mean, shoot a horse?
No,
I'm
shoot.
sorry, shod.
Shod. Yeah, the proper.
Yeah.
Oh, put a shoe on.
Put a shoe on, shoeing horses.
Okay, I thought you said
Yeah.
shoot, like, you
A
know.
lot of people think, you know, I don't know if we're just not enunciating correctly, but people like, you shoot horses for a living.
Yeah.
No, sir. No, sir.
Well, and I should, no.
yeah, that's definitely not what we
I
do.
miss
And then I
talking
thought, well, maybe you meant photography, like shoot.
Oh, yeah.
You said it right.
Yeah.
I'm sure my brain just processed
I
it
just
wrong.
miss talking to vets too, and talking to people who own their horses and educating them.
Yeah.
You know.
No, I've talked to a lot of vets lately, and I'm been there, done that too many times.
Yeah, that was probably more for the cats too, right? So
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, I have one that was diagnosed with seizures in January, February, and then this other one that unexpectedly got sick with cancer. So yeah, I've had way too many
Yeah.
vet visits, and after I've gone there, I'm like, wow, I don't know how some people afford it.
yeah.
Because vets,
It's
if you have
expensive.
an animal, it's
Yeah.
very
Yep.
expensive. It
Yep.
adds up.
Yeah. Let me ask you this.
Okay.
And we might go off into the deep end, so
Uh-oh.
just bear with me.
I told
here.
you we should have had wine for this. It might have been better instead of my cold coffee.
There might be some conspiracy theory in here. And let me set the grounds for it,
I
okay?
have cat hair, by the way, on my face. Not right now. After my,
And it's probably be one of the last few questions as I look at the time. Journalism used to be a thing where the journalist will actually go out, read up on a story, collect a large amount of data, make a decision on whether or not to expose a story.
right.
quickly, do you think journalism is the same as you see?
No.
Okay.
No.
Elaborate, please.
Okay. So I was a journalist, as I said, the first couple of years. Thankfully, I didn't do political reporting.
Right.
Or well, maybe a few like city council meetings, but that's about it. But I think what's sad is that in this day and age, it's so hard to know what to trust and who to trust. And I really, really appreciate people that try to look at both sides of things. And if you're on this side, that sometimes you can say, well, this side had it right. And if you're on this side, sometimes you say, well, this side had it right. I mean, I like when people aren't just, well, people can do whatever they want. I'm just saying for me personally, I respect when I hear from people that I feel like I'm getting the truth because I know that they're not just saying one thing or the other thing, that they might go back and forth or somewhere in the middle. So I appreciate that. But it's with everything now. I mean, there's AI. I mean, we're not going to know pictures and videos in the future, whether they're real or not.
Right.
There are a lot of podcasts out there right now, even, near-death experience podcasts like I do. There's some, they're just an AI voice that is, saying the story of this person.
Okay. So now that we have that understanding and where you are on that, now I'm going to pose another question that's more probably conspiracy based.
Okay.
And it has to do with being a meteorologist. Okay. Chemtrails and cloud seeding. What's your take on all of this?
Well, chemtrails, I mean, like an airplane is going to leave a trail.
Is there something nefarious going on here?
I don't put much thought in that, but cloud seeding is real. I mean, some countries are cloud seeding. I mean, that is something that is taking place. I don't know whether it's right or wrong. I know they're trying to bring rain to a certain area, but if you affect this area, you might change the weather up, down the road for somebody else. So I'm sure there's a lot of ethical questions to it. I just know it's being done.
Yeah, and I noticed California, well, I just left California, which it's been getting a lot more rain. Okay, and now they have these atmospheric rivers that are starting to form over the Pacific. Have you ever seen anything like this happen, or would you say climate change is a precursor?
Oh, I hate talking about climate change.
Oh, I know, but just give me your thoughts on it, just your personal thoughts.
Yes. Well, I think that first of all, weather is always changing. Okay. And you might get several years in a row where an area just gets dumped on with rain. And then, there have been years where California has been so dry. So, here's the thing I think about climate change. And if you don't agree with me, I am so cool with that. So, you don't have to let me know in the comments. I'm crazy. But I have been around so many smart people. These are weather people that were skeptics that, learned, when you look at the data, there is climate change that is very, very likely man-made. However, I'm not saying what the politics are. I'm not saying what to do to change that, to, take care of it. That's where it should be political. But scientifically, I've seen enough. I mean, I was exposed to stories every day, that you saw changes in climate and, but I don't know why it became such a hot button issue because, have your different politics on how to fix it or not fix it, whatever you want. But it's, most, not all, but most meteorologists and climatologists, believe that there is effects from man on the climate.
And I'm right there with you because, I'll put that point. I don't care what other people think, but
it's easy to believe. Look at how we're fucking things up now.
Exactly. You'd be hard pressed not to want to believe that the human civilization is a cause and effect on its environment. It's proven. Look at all the plastic in the ocean. Look at the rainforest we chopped down. Look at how everything is being ran right now.
Right. For every action, there's a reaction. Right. And I think Mother Earth is going to show us something. I don't know if it's going to be soon or not, but it's going to say, hey, morons, you're doing this, now check this out. Because we have to bring things back into balance again.
Right.
You know? And so I always wonder what, you know, a person of your education thought about it, you know, and you'll just leave the bullshit alone and just give us like an honest answer of what you think about it. And I think that's spot on.
Well, and that's what I think, you know.
I think it's spot on.
And it is amazing how it's become such a divisive issue.
Right.
I mean, it's crazy.
One can easily just look at ourselves and go, yeah, it's a no-brainer. Look how we treat each other. Like, why wouldn't we affect?
Right. I see cause and effect just by driving on the freeway, looking at the abundance of trash on the side of the road. So it's applicable. It all merges.
And look at the ocean with microplastics. And I mean, are you going to tell me we don't have a part in that too? Or, you know,
right.
It's just it's a fascinating thing.
Yeah. And there's so much else to think about too, of what we put in our bodies, because, you know, we're constantly putting plastics and chemicals in our body. And, you know, like you'll have a glass and it'll say it's BPA free, you know, it's a plastic bottle or something. But, you know, that's only one chemical they tested for. Right. There's probably a lot of others that haven't been discovered they're bad for us yet, but they more than likely are.
See, I told you, Heather, you took the blue pill and now there's no end to the madness.
Rabbit hole goes deep.
One more question. Have you ever experienced any paranormal activity? Have you ever like seen a ghost or just something that happened and you were just like, okay, that really challenged my reality?
I have definitely had things happen. So if we're wrapping up, there's probably not time for things that have happened.
Just give me one good story before we go.
So when we lived in Pennsylvania, I was really good at that time about meditating. I was just doing a lot of practice on that sort of thing. And I could crash computers by just walking like near them. And so, and it's not something that happens now because I'm not meditating, which I need to get back into it. But at the time I worked at the station, WGAL, and I would find like I would be nervous before the weathercast because I would have, you know, 2 minutes and I'm like still inputting my data, like trying to make the graphics and everything. And so I get nervous. And I noticed that whenever I got nervous, the computer would crash. So I found I had to fake it out. And people are going to think this is nuts, but I'd have to fake it out and kind of act, okay, I'm really calm. And, but it got to the point where I would invite people in the room. Back then you had to create these graphics. It took a long time to generate the graphics. And so I'd set it all up, get it going. I'd leave the room and I would say to somebody, go in there and look at it. Is it running? And they'd be like, yeah, it's working. And I would say, watch this. And I would walk in that room and it would crash.
Dang.
And my husband used to, back then he would be like, do not come near my computer. So, you know, there is something about some energy fields around us. And I think when we're more, you know, into things that bring more of that spirituality into our life, maybe we do have better auras or something that we're putting out there.
How funny you were able to trick it though. Yeah. Like, man, that's something crazy.
That was weird. And it happened over and over and over again. And, you know, I didn't show people until it had already happened to me a ton of times. And I would test it, you know, by walking in the room. So that's just one.
Yeah, that's very unique. And I don't think you tricked it. I think you've learned to control it.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yes. Because it's a part of you. It's you doing it while you can't trick yourself.
Or it could be something attached to her. We can't see everything. That's the thing. We can't see we don't have a spectrometer on our on our faces where we can just go, let's look in the ultraviolet and the violet and, you know, let's do all of this. 90% of the things we can't see around us.
Right. And I think when you leave your body, the 90% of the things you can't see, which I did, I think those are those colors that I was seeing that we've never seen before.
Right.
I tell myself a lot like, well, there's things we can't see in the physical body, but outside of it, you could probably see the gambit. And I think I was looking at the gambit.
Yeah.
The precursor of it.
Right.
Right.
What a gift. I mean, that is such a gift to,
right.
you know, have like I'm sure you can still envision those colors, but how do you describe a color to somebody?
You really can't. And if,
Yeah.
if I could bring one of those back, you two would sit here with your jaws open, salivating like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, I always say you need a poet. You need a poet and someone.
I don't think even then, because you're still using the human vernacular, and you can't write about something
that's true.
that you don't know about. I can't even speak on it because I don't know about it.
Right.
And a lot of people get me confused and they go, oh, well, you died. And I said, well, no, I didn't die. I was there before you see what happens when you die. Like I told Heather, I was at Disneyland, like at the front entrance. I don't know what it's really like to die and see what happens. You're in between the threshold of the physical.
You're talking to the proverbial operator before she connects you to where you have to go.
Right.
And I think that's what near-death experience the name is in the pudding. You're near the death process.
Right.
And you're only getting the precursors to build up. But some people have actually stated that they went over and they experienced it. But
I think some have.
Yeah. I've never, I'm not privy to that information. I can only tell you what it's like for me to get to the threshold.
Yeah, I've heard other people say very similar things. One of my guests described it as being in the lobby of heaven.
Right.
You're not quite in the auditorium yet. And another one, just how there's a divider. Many of them, there's like something they can't cross, because if they cross, then it's permanent.
Oh, yeah.
And I have always said that these near-death experiences are not what it's like, but they're a piece of the puzzle. And so when you hear a lot of them, you get a little bit more of the puzzle. And I think that really confuses some people, because they think they all should be alike. But why should they all be alike? I mean, we are going to an infinite place.
Right.
Yeah. Here on Earth, there are all these different experiences. Why would there not be an infinite number of other experiences beyond this life? And I just think, again, I think we started out on this, but there's so much we can't imagine that is out there.
Right.
And it's fun to try to figure some of it out. But, we'll never know until we're actually there.
I'd be highly suspect if every one of them were the same. I'd be like, no, this is.
Yeah, because we're not
this
the
can't
same.
be.
Yeah, we're not the same. We're all different. I have a closing question, and maybe you'll feed on this.
Okay.
Are you pressed for time by any chance? Or?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Oh, if you're good, then we could probably get a part 2 going.
Let me finish my damn question before I forget it. Like Heather forgets her questions.
Sorry.
I got it right here.
Sorry.
It's right here.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. So, and this is just total, just go with it on the whim. No rhyme or reason.
These are always scary when you say that.
Okay. So let's just say Dr. We won't even say death, but I'll make it lighter. An angel from the other side. He walks into your room, and at this point in time, life for you, it's nice. It's perceived well. You're having a grand adventure with it. And he poses the question of, you did great. Everything was perfect. You lived your life how you wanted to live it. All your loved ones that you come to know and have known in the past and other lives are with me on the other side. And he shows you, he opens the veil and he shows you what is waiting for you. And he says, would you like to come with me now, or do you want to finish this life out? And I'm giving you the offer because you're going to experience some pain in your life that it's going to be really, really challenging for you. And not to say we don't believe in you that you're going to get through it, but it's really going to challenge your energy. Do you want to come with me now, or do you want to stay and figure this out? What's your...
That is a tough one. That's like if you had said, do you want to, stay or come back, and you didn't add that last part, I would have said, well, if my kids are still here, my family's still here, I would come back. But when you add that, that's a different challenge. But on the other side, I might have a different perspective, and I might be like, oh yeah, I can handle all that. But the human part of me says, oh gosh, I don't know.
There's no right or wrong answer. Just so you know, this is just what you...
Yeah, and I don't know. That is a really hard one.
Okay, but Heather, you have to pick right here and now, because the option is here and now. He's there and now in your room, or she, or however you want to perceive it. You have... Is it like just a little crappy, or is it like a lot crappy? That can't be disclosed. It's just like the physical life now. You don't know what's going to happen or what you're here for. Go on, entertain the world.
Okay, I'll come back, but
Oh, you'll stay.
You'll stay.
You'll stay.
I'll stay.
You'll stay.
Yeah.
I see. Just stick it out,
Okay.
Heather.
So here's where I was really happy with your first answer, even if you didn't know it was your answer.
Okay.
You said, I don't know.
Right.
And in my mind, I stop with that.
Yeah.
And I'll let that
That's
entity.
why you're the good twin. You're like the nice twin, Lamont.
Oh my God! Would you really have?
Because I believe that was truly your answer. And so I will let the entity come back at me like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Your turn. Because I'm steadfast on I don't know. And that is a honest answer.
And I respect that, but you know, something has to transpire. Like you have to have a decision, right? Like we always have to have either I'm going to go to work or I'm not going to go to work. We don't have the privilege to sit at home and go, I don't know if I'm going to go to work.
Yeah.
You know,
I get what you're saying.
Some
but
things have to be finite.
It just seems like such a divine thing to have happen to you.
And I think my answer would be, I would have completely different knowledge once I was there, that I would be so clear on, oh yeah, or no, forget it.
Right.
Whereas now I'm only guessing. I haven't seen the other side that's so enticing. And I also don't know probably how strong I can be, where maybe my higher self would.
Well, hold on. Have you ever, like, what was what you perceive the worst moment of your physical life? Like, have you had like just a rock bottom place that you've been to?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Do you want to describe that?
No.
Yeah, we'll see. But that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You were at rock bottom and you managed to get out of it. So
yes, and you look back and you go, okay, I gained a lot of empathy.
right.
You can't. I mean, and that is the thing that so many people that are going through hard things really have a hard time with these near-death experiences when people say we plan this out. And again, I'm still seeking. I don't know the answers. I just know this is what a lot of people say that have been, that have had near-death experiences. And it's hard to understand because there is pain in this world. And there's certainly people that have had a lot worse experiences in their life than I have. And I can see where people are like, I just can't see how I would ever choose that.
You really can't measure, you can't really perceive what they've had is worse than yours is worse to them, because that's a matter of perception. A person losing a child may think, oh, that's the worst, but a person who lost their job, his perception is it's shattering to them in their in their ego. I think we all get the medicine that we need, and there's just no weights and measures for that. But it sounds like to me, even when you had your bottom moment, like you still shined and pulled yourself up. Your higher self is still with you. So, and kudos to you, because I think everybody that is in the physical realm, no one goes untouched, right? Life is going to hit you whether you like it or not. And it's about how you get yourself out of it.